Indigenous Communities Fellowship. Every kid gets a robot. Hawaiian Language Children Media Network. Waking Women Healing Institute. Shanka Kola, a Res Dog project. Nurturing Plants. We, Digital Ecocultural Mapping Project. And One Canoe Project, Navigating Changing Tides.
Growing up, I saw my little sister struggle to access technical educational opportunities. She'd begged to learn about coding and robots, but the opportunities that did exist were just way too inaccessible. This is a problem that many youth face, especially Indigenous youths. Many struggle to access quality technical education, resulting in a low number of Indigenous peoples in technical careers. Many factors contribute to this, from a lack of resources to a lack of representation. Education and technology enables economic development, connectivity, and innovation. My name is Danielle Boyer, and I'm a youth robotics designer. I'm Ojibwe from the Sault Ste. Marie Band in Michigan. To bridge this educational gap, I created Every Kid Gets a Robot, or ECHR, an affordable and scalable educational robotics kit to increase technical educational accessibility. Educational robotics strengthens and supports students' skills in developing their knowledge through the creation, design, assembly, and operation of robots. Our users have shown that on average, they score 70% on our technical assessment after using ECHR versus an average of 20% when they began. ECHR is app-controlled, made from recycled plastic, and it costs $18.95 to make and goes to kids for free. I invented ECHR in 2019 after I saw my students unable to afford robotics kits. ECHR teaches technical skills in a project-based way with culturally competent curriculum featuring representative characters. The robots come with a pre-programmed loop for communities without stable internet access. Our core tech is an ESP32 development board. The robots are brought to youth by the STEAM Connection, the educational nonprofit that I founded. We are minority and student run and all have been volunteering in education for years. We manufacture robots from our headquarters in Troy, Michigan, and also provide a Make a Robot virtual learning platform. We've reached tens of thousands of youth all around the world with an emphasis on Indigenous communities in North America. ECHR has reached tribal colleges, ACES chapters and events, Native-run events by universities and organizations, our own youth programming, and more. Most of our robot interest applications are from Indigenous educators. ECHR is award-winning, and our work has been featured by ACES, People Magazine, L'Oreal Paris, NBC, the United Nations, Hulu, Verizon, the Clinton Foundation, and many more. We're so thankful for our supporters. ECHR is truly a tool of the future, from the biodegradable plant-based components that I'm developing to replace plastic parts, to the young land defenders that we're working with to bring ECHR into the future. I'm so excited. But we need your help. We can't meet our high demand and need guidance and mentorship to develop our nonprofit and manufacturing practices to support our diverse team, our amazing students, and to continue making robots. The Indigenous Communities Fellowship will provide much needed support. Make Welch. Thank you.
Aloha kako, and mahalo for allowing me to present today. My name is Maui Tauotaha, and I'm one of the founders of Kolaniakea, a 501c3 nonprofit based here in Hawaii. Our focus is early childhood education with an emphasis on Hawaiian language, culture, and identity, paying special attention to our ancestral roots as voyagers, as ocean people. One of the quotes that really resonates with me when it comes to our work with children comes from Frederick Douglass. He said, "It's easier to build strong children than fix broken adults." As a result of colonization and the loss of our identity as Indigenous people around the world, we've seen a lot of broken adults. And we aim to try and heal that. In our efforts to build strong children, we propose the Hawaiian Language Children's Media Network. In the 6 years since our founding, we've had 3 strategic planning sessions, and at every single one, we talked about and dreamed about educational products like books and audiobooks and games and apps, cartoons, music, toys, lesson plans, things that get our children excited about learning their language and their culture and getting better rooted in their identity. We currently operate a small preschool with about 12 students. And when COVID hit last year, our parents asked for help on how to continue their child's learning at home. 3 and 4-year-olds, terrible on Zoom calls. So we reached into the strategic planning notes and pulled out some ideas we had for educational products. We made some short videos and digital offerings that could be downloaded at home. We did our best to provide the support for our parents that they were asking for. And by partnering with other Hawaiian organizations and utilizing social media, we went way beyond our classroom walls. We reached a greater slice of the Hawaiian community, not just here in Hawaii, but around the world. We also managed to publish a book with a native Hawaiian publisher and created some pretty cool educational products that were based on that book. The feedback we received from our community was that they wanted more, they needed more. So we have a lot of content to share. What we really need help with is guidance in the technological realm to teach us and guide us in better ways to deliver this content to the families who choose to reinvigorate the Hawaiian language and identity in their own lives. This is just one way to not only build strong children, but also strong families, grounded in the values of our ancestors and prepared with a support system of a like-minded community to help navigate life's inevitable challenges together. Everything we do at Kolaniakea is guided by Akua, the creator, and our kupuna, our ancestors. We thank them and we thank you for this opportunity to continue doing what we're doing, but at a much higher level with a much greater reach. Mahalo, aloha.
Families of missing murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit, or MMIWG2S, not only experience great pain through the loss of their relatives, but are re-traumatized when trying to navigate complex justice systems and are virtually invisible in both the media and data. Efforts to combat this violence are primarily led by grassroots. However, we remain segmented and undersourced as we have no single space to organize, collect Indigenous-led data, document our survivor stories, and create tribal regional solutions. With the use of ArcGIS online and story maps, we would be able to improve both healing and justice issues for families of MMIWG2S, like Andrea Lemke Rashawn pictured here, MMIW family member of Ray Lane Turtelot, through interactive story maps that connect data to the land and increase awareness while using traditional tools of storytelling for healing. ArcGIS Online creates one virtual space where we can collaborate across systems and jurisdictions to create interactive maps, store and analyze data, and coordinate solutions in connection to land, space, and time. Once data is analyzed, our collaborative will use story mapping to create systems change that will reduce and eliminate violence against Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit. Spatial analytics and traditional Indigenous tools for healing, such as storytelling, can also help provide a scope of the problem, identify gaps in response systems, which will then be used to present Indigenous and survivor-driven solutions across many regions and nations. We can also identify patterns of survivor responses or lack of by Western systems, locate culturally founded services for MMIWG2S and survivors of sexual violence. We can also document our survivor stories to create spaces of healing and justice. My name is Kristin Welch, and I'm the founder and executive director of Waking Women Healing Institute. We currently serve families of MMIWG2S and Indigenous survivors of sexual violence across Wisconsin and the Great Lakes region. We're located in between the reservations of the Menominee Indian and Stockbridge Munsee Band of Mohicans, and we're a survivor and Indigenous-led organization. Each of our staff and partners works to reclaim both healing and justice with and for our families through nation-to-nation building, uplifting survivor voice, and igniting spaces of healing through restoring the matriarchy and decolonizing mind, body, and spirit. We've seen the immense healing work that Indigenous storytelling can have. We've seen the impact that restoring the matriarchy has in our justice work. And when paired with ArcGIS and story maps, we will create a powerful agent for change that increases access to culturally founded care, improves responses to MMIWG2S, and prevents further violence on a regional and national scale. We'll for supporting.
and Petuwashte, Imachiapi Kami Griffith. I am Oglala Lakota from the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota. Within my community, it is common to see packs of dogs that are roaming the streets or congregating near grocery stores or convenience stores. In 2019, when I was monitoring the dog population, over 90% of the sites that I monitored had free roaming dogs. The overabundance of dogs is not a problem that is only common to the reservation. There are nearly 1 billion dogs worldwide, and approximately 1/5 of those are strays. They negatively impact wildlife populations and are the leading predator-caused deaths of cattle. They also pose a serious safety risk by attacking people, causing traffic accidents, and spreading diseases. In fact, the World Health Organization estimates nearly 55,000 people die from rabies due to free roaming dogs every year. And unfortunately, free roaming dogs are more common in poverty-stricken areas. These are areas that have the least number of resources available for dog population control and animal welfare programs. The Pine Ridge Reservation, where I'm from, is larger than Delaware, and yet it has only one animal control officer, no veterinarians, and no sustainable funding for animal welfare or animal control programs. In order to determine a more effective, efficient, and ethical way to manage the stray dog population, I'm using ecological modeling to determine the abundance and where they occupy. I am doing this by installing trail cameras across major towns and determining where specifically in those towns that they congregate. This is a common technique that's used in monitoring wildlife populations, and using it to monitor man's best friend will greatly impact the success of animal control programs. I'm also teaching this technique to high school and undergraduate students through a bridge and RE program at Oglala Lakota College. This project framework will make animal control more financially feasible and culturally appropriate. The students will gain valuable skills in using the scientific method to develop a hypothesis and come up with a conclusion. And they will gain valuable skills in learning wildlife techniques, as well as protecting Unchimaka, Grandmother Earth. The direction to solving a community problem will come directly from voices within my community. Ilamiaye, and thank you for your support.
Yat she'e Breanna Lameman. Hi, my name is Breanna Lameman. I am representing Dinan Perspective today, and I'm here to present to you our innovative solution called Nurturing Plants. So our relatives on the Navajo Nation are at the front lines of climate change and is experiencing severe drought and soil erosion due to extraction companies near or on the reservation. And so it is affecting our traditional plants, our food production and food access, and which is contributing to food and water insecurity. So today we are feeling those effects, especially our relatives who rely on the land for sustenance and cultural practices. So our traditional plants and our ways of living are being threatened today. And so to mitigate these threats and to address climate change that is posed on our food system is to implement a hydroponic system to increase food security, food accessibility, food sovereignty, and cultural revitalization in the Navajo Nation. And so the hydroponic system, it is a method of growing plants in the water without using soil. This system is built for you. Here we have a picture of two different sizes. One is 5 foot tall and the other one's 7. And so it can be built in many ways. And so we built this on the individual's requests, and we consider whether they have electricity or not. And so the design of this system is that it uses nutrient-based water, which is pumped into the first pipe, and then uses gravity to recycle into the next pipe until it reaches the water storage, and then goes through this system twice every hour. And so there are many great benefits to using this system. It is very cost efficient and effective. To create one is around $150, and it uses less water. It's a great dynamic method of water conservation. It produces plants efficiently with little electricity or no electricity at all. Plants grow faster. there's no weeds since you're not using soil. It reduces pests. There's less maintenance. All you have to do is check for the pH levels and clean around the system. It also increases cultural revitalization, providing that education about traditional plants. And it also provides greater access to healthier foods. And so eventually we want to scale up. We want to implement this system in the whole Navajo Nation and eventually in other tribal communities. But for now, we understand that climate change has disrupted our biodiversity, and using the system is another form of preserving and continuing our cultural plants. And so this will also increase the leafy green diet as well. And so we understand that communities don't have the same access. So we want to be there to provide healthier foods right in front of their home. And so this will not only combat climate change, but also increase education about sustainability, nutrition, the environment, and increase traditional knowledge. Also, the last main goal is of increasing food accessibility, food security, and food sovereignty. And lastly, we want to introduce our team members and our volunteers who have contributed to our solution. Thank you. And if you have any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to answer them.
Napsiam, Nisjalachisiam, Kusamatsan, Isnat, Shochwachlamisan. Hello, my respected people. My traditional name is Kusamat. My English name is Shirley Williams. I'm a 7th generation member and resident of the federally reserved lands of Lummi Nation, located in the uppermost corner of the Pacific Northwest in Washington State. I have been in the nursing field for 19 years, and I'm passionate about Indigenous public health and addressing root causes of trauma for Indigenous peoples and nature. Our problem is that we have no culturally safe place to practice and teach our next generations because we were removed from our ancestral homelands and way of life. To address this problem, we are developing a digital ecocultural map that supports the visualization and storytelling about our natural, cultural, and historical sites in the Salish Sea, bringing our ancestral village sites, camps, reef net locations, and 13 Moon food sovereignty or Indigenous stewardship systems back to life. We are partnering with Immerse and Straight Salish community members to develop a map prototype for Papiawa, now known as English Camp, located on the west side of San Juan Island. We are bringing together Lummi and Saanich nations to honor and record narratives of history, natural resource management systems, and cultural resurgence as reef net societies to ancestral village sites, including Papiawa English Camp, San Juan Island National Historical Park, in which we gifted 3 storyboards on the 100th centennial. This novel mapping tool is based on traditional maps showing transboundary sovereignty and kinship to ancestral sites. Our short-term and long-term objectives will be to preserve and prevent epistemicide of traditional local knowledge, highlight pathways for healing as we return to our ancestral sites, and support knowledge democracy as we balance Indigenous and Western ways of knowing. If we receive the MIT Sol Fellowship, we will use it towards paying our WE interns part-time positioning after their Northwest Indian College funding expires. The interns are synthesizing a database of scientific and Indigenous names for species present at Papiawa, as well as images and references to their cultural values. The database forms part of the digital infrastructure behind the ecocultural mapping framework. Once generated, this database will map these names and values to the species occurring on the map of Papiawa, informing visualizations that allow community members to explore the cultural resources of this important place in the Salish Sea. Other databases will be generated to the map stories and other digital media to the geographic features of this place. Haishka from Whiteswan Environmental. We one mind for the purpose of the work.
I'd like to begin with a chant and prayer by Ifan Lion Oral History Project. Kinin lagu naman matu, hukisay na fulo na lazak, man momuknuita mongi tasik, panengay sagwa hakanyan, sanenga I magaga. Fanengazan fangakumuk Thange kumuki katin kulu. Samahana noni manya haina. Tumosuki lahi matenguma. The climate crisis is an unprecedented storm that no other recent generation has had to navigate. The waves from the storm are already crashing onto the people of the Pacific, threatening our livelihoods and our very homelands with an increased intensity and occurrence of cyclones, sea level rise, ocean acidification, and coral reef loss. All youth are at the front lines of the crisis, as they'll be living through the destabilizing impacts. One canoe uplifts the descendants of the great Pacific navigators to unite and weather the unprecedented changing seas of this time. Islanders hail from a lineage of seafaring peoples whose connections to the ocean, sky, stars, and winds brought them across the vast ocean and onto our homelands where we still thrive today. Not much is being done to educate the 50,000 K-12 youth across the Marianas on this issue. The One Canoe Project educates and empowers youth for climate action and amplifies island voices. This project aims to teach the root causes of the climate crisis and encourage students to use ancestral wisdoms and values to keep humanity moving forward. We desperately need to prepare kids to navigate these precarious times. It's imperative for our youth to know who they are and where they come from. Education is such a powerful agent of social change, and the more culturally rooted and place-based curriculum leverages that power of place. The overall project partners with the University of Guam, the Guam Department of Education, the Guam Community College, via the Guam Green Growth Initiative. MIT Solve can assist in maximizing One Canoe's goals of incorporating the use of technology with the possible development of learning apps that uplift traditional language and knowledge systems about our environment. Island kids need tools to connect to each other, to strengthen the canoe's hulls and interweave a sail to overcome the incoming storm of climate change. Pacific wisdom has vital lessons for our collective human family, as we are all one crew on this one canoe we know as Earth. Sizos Masi.